Power is usually a temporary thing, right? But what if it wasn't? What if one single family could build a political dynasty so powerful it becomes an inheritance, passed down not for a decade or two, but for 200 years? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain and see exactly how they did it. So that's the big question, isn't it? How on earth does a family embed its power so deeply that it survives revolutions, massive political changes, and the passing of 10, that's right, 10 generations? This goes way beyond just winning a few elections. We're talking about making power part of the family's very DNA. I mean, how is that even possible? Well, the key, it turns out, was found inside this incredible piece of research. It's a master's thesis from 1996, all about the Caiado family of Goiás, Brazil. This is our roadmap because it does something special. It doesn't just analyze them from a distance. It actually uses the family's own words to reveal the inner workings of their long-lasting influence. And the scale we're dealing with here is just staggering. This isn't about some brief moment in the sun. We are talking about a continuous political presence stretching over 220 years. Think about that. That's 10 generations, passing the torch of power from one to the next. Okay, so to really get how they pulled this off, we've got to look at their history. And let me tell you, it was not a simple straight line to the top. Nope. It was this dramatic cycle of grabbing power, losing absolutely everything, and then engineering a stunning comeback. Their political journey was truly a roller coaster. I mean, first, they become a huge political force. Then, from 1909 to 1930, they achieved what the thesis calls the hegemony, which is just a fancy way of saying they had near total control. But then, boom, 1930. Disaster strikes. They're defeated, kicked out of power, and spend the next 15 years in political exile. Now, for most, that would be the end of the story. But here's the wild part. They didn't just disappear. They clawed their way back, adapted, and managed to secure their power for another 50 years. So what kept them going during that time in the wilderness? This quote from a family member tells you everything you need to know. It wasn't just about wanting power. It was this deep, almost stubborn pride, a feeling that circumstances forced them to take back what was theirs. This belief that power was their duty. That was the engine for their entire comeback. All right, so that's the what. They rose, they fell, and they rose again. But how? What were the secret ingredients? What was the recipe for this kind of staying power? Now we get to dig into the heart of their strategy. According to the thesis, their success rests on 4 main pillars. It starts with the practical stuff, huge amounts of land for economic and social clouds, and smart alliances through marriage and politics. But the real secret sauce? That's in the other 2. An incredibly powerful internal belief that politics was their vocation, their calling. And, maybe most importantly, the masterful way they built and controlled their own family story. Just look at what that network looked like when they were at their peak. It's just, wow. This wasn't one guy in office. The family patriarch, Caiado, he was a federal senator. His brother? Oh, just the president of the state. Then you've got sons, nephews, cousins-in-law, all filling key spots from the national government right down to the local police doctor. They had the whole system covered. And this really gets to the core of it all. For the Caiado family, politics was never just a job you picked. It was an inheritance. It was a responsibility that came with the family name, something you were born into, just like you were born into owning the family land. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can hear it straight from them. A key family member, Caiado, put it perfectly. He said, "It's a matter of vocation." Now listen closely to how he frames it. He says none of them did it for themselves. It was always about continuing the tradition. It's such a powerful way to frame and justify their constant presence in power. So this idea of tradition, it leads us to maybe the most fascinating and profound idea in this whole explainer. The idea that you can inherit not just money or a name, but that you can inherit history itself. And that history, that can be your most powerful political weapon. Okay, so the researcher uses this sociological concept called habitus. Now, I know it sounds like a super academic word, but don't let it scare you. The concept is actually pretty straightforward and really powerful. Think of it this way. Habitus is history that gets baked into a person. It's not just stuff you know from a history book. It's a whole set of instincts, attitudes, and ways of seeing the world that are passed down through generations until they become totally second nature. It's like the past is literally living inside you in the present. And here is the perfect example of habitus in action. Look at how the family remembers the 1930 revolution. The official historical account is pretty dry, right? A local ruling group lost power during a national political shift. But the family story? Oh, it's an epic saga. They weren't just defeated, they were persecuted. They didn't just lose a political fight, they were exiled for fighting against tyranny. See the difference? This rewriting of history is so powerful. What was a clear political defeat gets transformed into this myth of heroic resilience. It reinforces their family identity, it fuels their sense of being right, and it becomes a moral mission for the next generation to get back what was unjustly taken from them. That is habitus, the past becoming the blueprint for the present. The sociologist Pierre Bourdieu, who came up with this idea, put it in the most haunting way possible. He said, "It is the dead who take possession of the living." And for this family, the stories, the duties, the grudges of past generations are literally commanding the actions of the people in the present. So, after all this, where did it all lead? Let's jump forward to when this thesis was being written back in the mid-90s and take a look at the legacy of this incredible political machine. And, well, the results really speak for themselves. The comeback strategy worked like a charm. This table shows the family's power right around the time the thesis was finished. A whole new generation was holding powerful positions, from the mayor's office all the way up to a presidential candidate in Ronaldo Caiado. The dynasty was alive and kicking. And that's what it all comes down to. This was the family's greatest trick. They managed to turn their own name, Caiado, into political capital. It became a brand, a symbol of power and tradition in their state, a brand they could just pass down again and again. And just listen to this quote from one of the younger Caiado politicians at the time. "We have to honor the name of the family." In those few words, you can just feel the entire weight of that inherited history, of that habitus. The dead are taking possession of the living, and the cycle is all set to start over again. The story of the Caiado family is a true masterclass in how to build and keep power. But it leaves us with this one final, really big question to think about. When history itself becomes a family heirloom, who truly owns the future?